get started. I'm Rachel Leyva. I am one of the financial aid specialists here on campus. And so today I'm going to do a presentation over what Galveston College's SAP policy is. That's Satisfactory Academic Progress. And that is what you have to maintain in order to continue to receive your financial aid, grants, student loans, and any type of federal or state aid that the college receives. This is the policy that you have to maintain in order to keep those things going for yourself. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. So Satisfactory Academic Progress, every higher education institution has one of these policies, and some institutions, they may differ from Galveston College. College of the Mainland will be different than ours. Ours will be different than the University of Houston, but every institution, every higher education institution has a SAP policy, and so we're always telling our students that you should know your institution's SAP policy, because for ours there are 3 components, and once you are in violation of one, then you will lose your financial aid. And so this is also applied to the student's whole entire academic higher education history. So sometimes in high school, students are able to take classes in college, and so if you don't do well in the classes that you take in high school and their college classes, then that of course follows you into once you do get into college. And then for financial aid purposes, there's never a fresh academic start. No matter how old or how new the grades are, we will still take them into consideration. And it also doesn't matter how they are paid for. If scholarship pays for them, if you pay for them out of pocket, no matter how you pay for your courses, that academic grades are still taken into consideration for your entire academic year. And that's when I talk about, it says here that the policy should not be confused with a probation good standing, because there's different things between academic policy in admissions, and there's different things in academic policy or for your academic grades in financial aid. So you shouldn't get those confused. Those are something you should know, both the admissions part of academic good standings and then what your grades need to be for your financial aid as well. The financial aid will determine each semester whether a student has successfully completed classes. So at the end of each term, financial aid looks at your grades and reviews them, and as long as you are meeting the SAP policy, then you can continue to receive your financial aid. These are the 3 components that are in our SAP policy: GPA, maximum time frame, and completion. So GPA is going to go, you have to maintain a 2.0 here at Galveston College in order to continue receiving your financial aid. Now GPAs do not transfer in from other schools here at Galveston College. I cannot say that for another institution, but for Galveston College, your classes that you take here are only the grades that your GPA is taken into consideration. And you must maintain the 2.0 GPA in order to stay in compliance with our SAP policy. Maximum time frame. So in order to complete any type of degree, the Department of Education gives you an allotted amount of hours. And so for a bachelor's degree, they give you 180 hours. For a associate's degrees, they can go anywhere from 90 to 98 credit hours, and certificates go anywhere from 24 to 68 hours. And what they're saying is once you have attempted that many hours, you lose your eligibility to receive any type of financial aid. And so then that's when, once you have violated one of these, whether it be GPA, time frame, and then the next one that we'll go over is completion, you are in violation, and so then you have to, there's another process that you would have to do in order to get your financial aid back. So these are the maximum amount of hours that you are able to attempt. And when I say attempted, I mean you get A's, B's, C's, D's, F's, I's. All those grades are taken into consideration and into your attempted hours. So once you've hit these maximum amount of attempted hours, you are in violation of the time frame component of our SAP policy. And then the next, the last one is completion. So what we do is we take all the hours that a student has attempted in higher education, and we divide that by what they have completed. and then it has to stay above 75% in order to continue to receive your financial aid. Anything below the 75% will either put you on a warning status or at a suspended status from receiving your financial aid. So again, grades are submitted at the end of each semester. So that's how we do it. And when we say all hours, again, that's whether it was in high school or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. They're always, once you've attempted hours in higher education, it's always taken into consideration. So there are two different types of SAP statuses that you will see on your, if you look in your MyGC or you have looked there before, these are some of the SAP statuses that you may see pop up. So the first one would be that you were in a warning status, and that means that this is the first time you have become in violation of our SAP policy. And that would be either because your GPA went below the 2.0, you dropped below the 75% of completing all of your attempted hours, or you're right at where you are really close to that time frame on your degrees that you're trying to seek. And so this is just saying, hey, you're in this warning status, you need to make sure that you do well the next semester, because if you have anything that makes you violate this after this warning, you're going to be in a suspension status. And that is where you will lose your eligibility for any type of federal student aid. And that does include your student loans and the Pell Grant and any type of state or federal aid that the college has to offer to our students. But in the suspension status, you do have the option to appeal, and so that's another process that you would have to go to. But if you go into your MyGC, these would be if you were close to being in violation of your SAP status or you were at a suspended status. These are those two things that you would see. And sometimes in MyGC, if it says okay, that means you're not in violation of everything. Grades look good, you're not close to the attempted hours, GPA is above the 2.0, and you are not close to the hours or the 75%. So failing grades would be an F, an incomplete, in progress, if you've had to withdraw from your classes, if your teachers have withdrawn you, that would be considered an AWN, a no credit D because you did not pass the courses. If you ever see a WX, those are normally from other institutions, and that's where the teacher has withdrawn you, just like the AWN. It's because you've in violation of their attendance policy or something in their syllabus, and so they've had to withdraw you from classes. And so then the remedial courses that you take that are the 0300 classes, you either earn a credit in those courses or you do not earn credit, and so you either have a no credit or a credit and you have passed that class. And then your passing grades would be anything through A through a D, a credit, or a CRB, CRA, and CRC. Those are passing grades in your classes. So once you have violated the SAP policy, you do have to submit a satisfactory academic progress in order to continue to receive your financial aid. And so we're just going to touch a little bit on how to submit one of those. The only way to submit a SAP policy right now is you have to do that electronically through the dynamic forms. And once grades are run, we will actually contact you through your Whitecaps email, and you'll receive this email that says, dear student, you are in violation and now suspended from your financial aid. You will need to submit a SAP appeal form, and there will be an actual link to that form that you're going to be filling out. And so if you have to appeal, it does need to have a typed statement and then any documentation on why you're appealing. Sometimes there should be an extenuating circumstance of why you didn't do well in your classes, and so you would need to list that in your typed statement and then have some sort of documentation for that. So for instance, maybe somebody got pregnant and you had to help, or you were the one who was pregnant, maybe just attaching the baby announcement or birth certificate. Extenuating circumstance could also be that someone has passed in your family, and so any type of documentation for that, doctor's appointments, but it needs to be some sort of extenuating circumstance.
Would any
why you're appealing, right?
So, like, even if you're on SAP, which I'm on SAP right now, but it's just a warning. So, if I were to submit an appeal, which I have to do soon, what dynamic form?
So what'll
does it have to
happen,
be?
so in your MyGC, when you log on to your Whitecaps portal and you log on to your MyGC, right away it's going to tell you your SAP status. It's going to be in red if you're at a suspended status, and I believe it's in maybe yellow if you're in a warning status.
Mine's a yellow.
So that means you're in a warning status, but as long as you do well in your courses, it just depends on why you're in that warning status, because you may be, if you pass all your classes this semester, there could be a chance that it takes you back into compliance. But I would have to look at your particular file in order to say if that would be your situation. So in that MyGC, there's a Satisfactory academic progress form in there. And if you can't find it there, then you can always find it on our website underneath the financial aid tab and then forms. So what will happen is you will have to fill out the form. You will pick your advisor to say who your advisor is. Your advisor will either contact you to say, hey, let's talk about the schedule that you're wanting to pick for your future terms. Because on your appeal form you do have to list it. It does ask you what classes will you be taking in the fall, what classes would you be taking in the spring, and then the same for the summer session. And so you do want to list the classes that you have planned to take in those sessions. Because when you submit an appeal, the appeal team is looking at to say, okay, their question is, can this student academically be successful? We're going to approve this appeal, but if we approve it, will they be academically successful? Have they given us a good enough reason or an extenuating circumstance of, yes, we do believe that this student is going to be academically successful. So when they see those classes, well, this student is only taking 6 classes this spring semester because they didn't do well with the full-time classes in the fall, and it asks you when you're going to be graduating. So you want to make sure, if you don't know, I would just give a guesstimate, like I plan to graduate at this time, this is my plan, and then you should stick with that plan, unless some things change and you're not able to, of when you're going to graduate on the appeal form.
Okay. For the appeal form, with pregnancy, would you have to, because my son's not here yet, I'm actually still pregnant, and I have doctor appointments like during, like, on some class days, so how would I have to?
Well, you just,
do that?
for yourself, you would just need to make sure that your teachers, as long as you keep in contact with your teachers, there's no reason, and you stay on top of your work, I don't foresee them saying we're going to drop you because you've had this appointment, as long as you have the proof. Now, whenever you're talking about submitting that stuff, documentation as far as your appeal goes, I wouldn't say you would have to attach every appointment form that you have, but just saying, here's a couple of the appointments that I can show you that I have been to, and let's say that if for some reason, and again, I'd have to look at your situation to tell you more, but you go back into compliance at the end of the semester and you don't have to appeal. So and then in the future, it could be, let's say next semester and the baby's here and you have to drop one class, and you could then, you get the baby announcements to say the baby was born at this time, and you could just simply use that. Okay. So again, appeals, you should, whenever you're appealing, it does need to list an extenuating circumstance of why you're having to appeal. And once a student has submitted appeal, it does take the appeal team 10 business days to have a response back to us. And the financial aid office is in charge of notifying the students. Anything that we're going to send to the student is going to go to their Whitecaps email. So make sure that you always are checking that pretty regularly. And then again, we talked about the class schedule on there, on that appeal form. It asks you what classes it is that you're going to take for your future terms. And it's really, really important that you kind of stick to that plan, because you do have it does ask you a graduation date, and so you do want to set an end goal of when you're going to be completing these classes. So just make sure that whenever you submit that appeal form to the advisor, and you guys are talking about it, that you talk about, well, in the summertime I only want to take one class, so maybe taking a full load in the spring, but just that you are going by that degree plan, by that class schedule that you have chosen. This is our contact information for our office, and so you are always more than welcome to give us a call whenever you have any questions or anything. And then, like you said, you saw that you were at a warning status for this semester. Do you know that, has somebody said to you already that you would have to definitely appeal at the end of the semester?
Not that I know of, but
because there's so many different things and different reasons.
yeah.
Some students can be, let me tell you, the SAP policy is crazy because it really does go by 75%. So if a student is at like 73.9 or 74.4%, it's not going to count that 70. It's not going to round it up. It's going to say, no, you are still suspended. So it's a really, really iffy situations. And so sometimes it will be that a student is, let me give another example. So if we're looking at completion rate, a student could have attempted 13 hours in the fall semester and passed absolutely none of those courses. And so whenever we go to recalculate grades, for the spring term, they could maybe pass all, if they take full time and pass all of those, it's still not going to bring them to the 75%. So I think in that case, they would have to appeal because they've attempted more hours but still have completed less hours. So they still would need to appeal. So it just depends. If I were you, I would reach out to us, go downstairs, ask a couple of questions, let us look at it, and then we could probably tell you if you need to submit that appeal. Okay. I just don't want, if you know you're going to do well, we're so still in the beginning of this semester that it may, that I know that you're just wanting to be ahead, but if it's not something that you need to do or that you have to do, and it may depend on your grades, we're so close into the semester.
Okay.
Now,
mine is because of my GPA.
So depending on how you do at the end of the semester, it could be that your GPA goes above the 2.0.
Okay.
So it's just going to depend. Now, however, if there's by chance that you have to withdraw from one of your courses, or you receive an I at the end of one of your courses, or you have anything below a D, an F, or you have to withdraw, then, or this teacher or the professor withdraws you from it, then next semester you would definitely have to appeal because that is a violation of your warning status.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's it unless you have any other questions. No? Okay.
No.
Do you think you get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But just, so because I had clicked on the GCSAP appeal form, and if I do have to submit one, it sent me to the...
Right, and this is right. So this is your form. So this is telling you these are why, this is what you would be in violation of, and then these are your extenuating circumstances. You could list one of these, and then this tells you what you have to have, your letter, your extenuating circumstance of what it was, and then what has changed in your situation. So when you're writing your letter, you could be, when you first started college, sometimes students start college right after high school and they're not successful at the end of their first semester. And then they do, maybe they come back a couple of years later. And so in their letter, they're going to say, I was young right out of high school. Since then, I have matured and I'm ready to go back to school. And so some things have changed like that. So be very detailed in your letter. Okay. Don't submit it and it has like 2 or 3 sentences on it. Kind of make it, explain to them your situation.
Okay. So would I have to type it up on like a Word document?
Or? And then save it.
Okay.
And then you're going to attach it to this. So then once you've read this, then you're going to hit next. Well, I'm sorry, you attach it to these 2 things.
Okay. And
then you'll hit next, and then it's going to ask you who your academic advisor is. So
okay.
do you see somebody who
yes.
you talk to one regularly? So then you would choose them on the next page, and then it'll notify them that you have this form sitting out there to go over with them.
Okay.
And so they'll either contact you by telephone or by email to say, hey, we need to discuss that next page that they're going to be asking to list the classes that you're going to be wanting to take for the next semester of enrollment.
Okay. And what if I don't, and what if I choose not to do the summer semester?
No, that's fine.
Would I just put for the fall semester?
Right, fall and spring. Because
Okay.
it asks you fall, spring, and summer. So if you're not going to do summer, then you'll just, simply not write anything in there and just put your fall and spring classes in there.
Okay.
Okay?
Alrighty. So do y'all ever really have a specific day on where y'all would need this if I would have to?
So they
do
take
one?
10 business days. Once we receive it, it's a 10-day turnaround. Unless it's sometimes we will have students who will submit them before the end of the semester, but we will have to wait till the end of the semester because they want to see grades for students to see how
Okay.
they do. So it could take a little, depending on the timing, it could take a little bit longer.
Okay.
I would say get it turned in as soon as you know that you were going to need to appeal.
Okay.
That way it's in there, because once we get into the end of the semester, we're having a lot of appeals submitted, because that's where, again, students start to find out that they're in violation of their SAP or have gone past that allotted amount of hours for time frame, and so they're going to be submitting appeals. So as soon as you know that you need to submit that appeal, then I would get it submitted.
Okay. And what if I'm not required to submit an appeal? Would I still submit one even though I'm not required to, or?
No, you won't need to, because there's no reason for us.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a reason for us to do that.
Okay.
Now, the only other thing that I'm going to say is make sure that you get the 23-24 FAFSA done if you haven't done so already. Because
Okay.
that's due. I mean, that hasn't been out since October, so that's coming up
Yeah.
just right around the corner.
Okay. So then would that be for the summer semester?
No, that's for the fall term. That's for
That's for
classes that
fall?
start in August.
Okay.
Summertime is still going to go off of your 22-23 FAFSA.
Okay. And what if I'm not, well, because I'm not gonna be taking classes my summer semester. So even though I had applied for FAFSA,
We don't
for
request
this
those funds.
semester,
That's fine.
so then y'all wouldn't, so it wouldn't fall into the summer semester?
If you wanted to take classes.
Okay.
If you don't take any classes, we just don't request the funds from the Department of Ed. That
Okay.
just stays with them.
Okay. Alrighty. And you said for the fall semester, starting in August, I didn't have to do the FAFSA application.
You
now?
should start doing that now.
Okay.
Yeah, for those classes that start in August.
Okay. So I would go through the Galveston College?
No,
website?
studentaid.gov.
Okay. Oh, okay. So then it's just
The actual application itself.
okay. So then I would just